Hello and welcome back to Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC Fight Night Makhachev. I'm going to say Makhachev versus Moises. I'm pleased to inform that we have no injustices on this scorecard at all. These Vegas scorecards have been getting a lot better. They've been evening out, and none of the fighters have been getting screwed. They're finally getting to where I wanted them to be at, because there have been so many fights at the Apex. It's a very controlled environment to where you can really hunker down and score these pretty fairly. Obviously, sometimes there's some inconsistencies. That happens with me too. I'm not at the Apex, but it happens a lot where there are certain scorecards that are a little fishy. And even I have one on here where I'll explain it, but I've in hindsight, maybe I need to look at it better, or maybe I didn't look at it enough. Either way, we just have some honorable mentions, and the first honorable mention is Baudot versus Nascimento. That fight ended in a TKO, but the first round was scored, and in that very first round, I scored it a 10-9 for Baudot, which is fairly easy. All the other judges scored it a 10-9, except for Mike Bell, who gave a 10-8. I don't know what the fuck he was watching, but it's not a 10-8. It's not a 10-8. That's the first thing I want to throw. It's not a 10-8. There's nothing to even say after that. Honorable mention to Mike Bell for giving it 10-8 when it was a standard 10-9. All right. Move on to the second honorable mention of the fight, of the night. Figueiredo versus Gordon. I had it 30-27 Gordon. And Saul D'Amato also had a 30-27. The honorable mention goes to Conejo and Weeks, where I was assuming they were going to, when you watch the fight, it's that first round is very close. The other two rounds were, I thought, were obviously Gordon. Now, when I do these honorable mention things, I tally them up, and I don't look at. I just look at what round was scored other than mine, right? Which is it's a bit back patty, but it's still whatever. I'm just trying to tell you how I write these down. I was thinking that it was 29-28 because they had given the first to Figueiredo. Turns out they scored the first round correctly. Where I'm probably more confused now is. So I was going to come here and explain the first round. Fuck that. I'm not explaining the first round anymore because we all scored it the same. The second round seems to be where there's some confusion. So in the second round, Gordon outstruck Figueiredo. Barely. And then got a takedown in the final seconds. Now, if you're watching the fight in real time, it's apparent that Figueiredo's kind of coming on at the end. But throughout the entirety of the fight, Gordon is outstriking him. So, if anything, even though he did outstrike him, if anything, the strikes go up even. Let's just say, for the sake of the argument, the strikes go up even. But in that final moment, Gordon gets a takedown. In the final seconds. It's his round regardless. And for some reason, Tony Weeks and Conejo score 10-9 for Figueiredo. That's even worse for if they had scored it a 10-9 for Figueiredo in the first. Because I was going to sit here and explain how the first was just it's all over the place. Now, granted, Gordon wins the first round because Figueiredo is kind of inactive when he takes down Gordon. But it's this one takes the cake as it's definitely one of the worst ones. So an honorable mention for Conejo and Weeks for a 10-9 in the second for Figueiredo. The next honorable mention is for Vieira versus Stoltzfus. Now I gave a 10-9 to Stoltzfus in the first, and a 10-9 to Vieira in the second. And that fight ended in a submission win for Vieira. Bird reflects my scorecard. And then the other two scorecards is where I get confused, and that's Eric Colon and Brian Minner. So they give Vieira the first. They both give a 10-9 to Vieira in the first. Here's what's confusing. That fight's relatively even on the feet up until the last, I would say, 30 seconds, where Stoltzfus kind of puts it on. He's the only one kind of striking in that last 30 seconds, and then finishes with that big action at the end. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, that big action is what won him the round. No, there's that last 30 seconds where he's the only one striking that wins him that entire round. I don't know how they didn't catch that. That's bad from them. I don't know how they didn't catch that. Then probably even worse than that is they then give round 2 to Stoltzfus. They give round 2 to Stoltzfus. A reminder of what happened in that round. Vieira got a takedown and outstruck Stoltzfus in that round. So not only did he get a takedown, he also outstruck him on the feet. That's a little concerning. That's really concerning that they just didn't. Either their scorecards got mixed up, or they scored this really terribly. Either way, officially on paper, they got it wrong. So, honorable mention to Eric Colon and Brian Minner for that one. And then the final honorable mention goes to me. I'll try and defend it, but either way, I'm still getting an honorable mention. This is for Reneau versus Tate. Obviously, that fight ended in a TKO win for Tate. I scored a 10-9 in the second round for Tate, and then a 10-9 for Reneau in the first. Now, what I saw in the first that made me give it to Reneau was it was very even on the feet. From what I saw, it was very even on the feet. Tate got a takedown, but Reneau was the only one active. Now, I guess in hindsight, looking back on it, you could say that she didn't give enough ground and pound to give her that round. But I disagree, because there's been many fights that deliver that same amount of ground and pound, really, from the bottom, that still gave that person that round. You see, in that round, Tate got the takedown, but didn't do anything with it. She kind of just held her there, really. Even though it was pretty even on the feet, she got the takedown. No ground and pound from Miesha Tate in those final seconds, and Reneau was the only active person from the bottom. So I'd given her that round for that. And again, I looked at all the other judges' scorecards. They had it for Tate, obviously. I could have been wrong on this. I'm going to say I'm wrong on this. I think I'm wrong on this. And so finally, the honorable mention goes to me for that. That's it for the entire card. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And God bless.